Hey everyone, welcome back to Silent Hill 2 Remake. I finally made it to this game. A couple of weeks ago, the remake of Silent Hill 2 was added to PS Plus, and I figured it was the perfect opportunity for me to finally dive in. As a big Resident Evil fan, I always suspected that I'd enjoy the Silent Hill series, but again, as a Resident Evil fan, I also had my doubts. So let's see what this foggy little nightmare town has waiting for us. The story starts with a man named James Sunderland arriving at the eerie town of Silent Hill in search of his wife. James's wife Mary sent him a letter saying she's waiting for him at their special place in town where they once vacationed together. Plot twist in literally 10 seconds, almost immediately James says the letter couldn't have been from Mary because she died 3 years ago from an incurable disease. If you try turning around to leave the way you came, James just turns back and then you get the achievement for attempting to escape. At the cemetery, we meet one of the key characters, Angela. We'll meet the second one, Eddie, a little later. Their stories don't directly connect to James or to each other, but they are clearly tied to this town in upsetting ways. Angela tells James how to get to Silent Hill, but warns him that something is wrong with the town and it may be better to leave. James tells her he's looking for someone important and can't go back yet. Following the path Angela pointed out, we arrive at the locked gate. To unlock it, we find a key at an auto parts shop nearby. After opening the gate and walking a bit further down the road, we find a map of the town with all the important buildings marked for this stage of the game. Keep this video from getting longer than necessary, I'll skip some details, but trust me, I cleaned out this town completely. I love exploring maps like this, just so, you know, in GTA San Andreas, my favorite missions were the burglar missions. Not because I liked stealing, but because it was the only, or one of the few opportunities to just snoop around interiors in the game, and I loved doing that. While exploring, we quickly learn we are not alone. Monsters are lurking around already. Thankfully, we can't fight yet, so no combat for now. Also important, the town is broken by a massive crack, so you can't really just go anywhere you want. Most of the times, you would actually have to figure out some alternative route. At one point, the game strongly hints that instead of following yellow paint like in some other games, we now have to follow white cloth, which we do, for example here. There we find the second save point. The first was back in the forest, where James also mentions feeling like something pierced into his head, obviously trying to convey the same sharp red flash to us as players. Save points actually have a couple more cool Easter eggs, but we'll get to those a little later. Anyway, the first major location ends up being the house we broke into through the garage. Here we encounter our first enemy. The game signals nearby enemies through static on the radio, which James will carry with him from now on. I can't say anything about the original Silent Hill 2, but in the remake, the combat is very comfortable. We get melee weapons, and throughout the game we find several guns as well. We can also dodge, and the dodge here it feels really nice. It feels like James takes 0 damage even if enemies graze him mid-dodge, which I kinda abused shamelessly during some of the boss fights. There are also 2 types of healing, small first aid drinks and syringes that fully restore health. I think everyone's already probably joked about James going to a creepy abandoned town and casually stabbing himself with random syringes from dirty boxes, so I won't add anything here, but you kinda understand. Our next important location is Neely's bar, where we find a music box. To solve its puzzle, we need a second half of vinyl record, glue, a button, and a coin. From here on, I'll try to skip puzzle details, A, in case somebody wants to play the game after watching my video and solve everything themselves, and B, just to keep this recap focused on the story. Even though the puzzles differ, the basic structure is kind of the same. We need an item, we find it, we arrange to activate things in the correct order, or we need maybe a code, we follow the clues, get the code, you get the idea. The melody from the music box reminds James of the park by the lake where he and Mary once spent the whole day. Thinking this must be the special place mentioned in the letter, James decides to head there. We get the key to the bar's back door. The note we find in there tells us to look for a greenish blue car in one of the yards, and next to it we find the key to the Woodside apartments. As soon as we pick them up, monsters attack. I decided my healing items were too precious, so I just ran. The wind was raging and the monsters were more aggressive than usual, so I just sprinted all the way to the apartments. Inside, it was kinda surprisingly cozy, as hinted by the achievement we got on the arrival. After grabbing the map, I start exploring all the open rooms nearby. This is kind of what I usually would do in all the locations going forward. Just get the map and then just check what is open and what's not. Almost right away, I find the main puzzle of this location, a locker with a poem. To solve it, we need to collect 3 coins. While looking for coins and other goodies, we stumble upon Mary's clothes and flashlight. We obviously take the flashlight because it's hella dark and are immediately attacked by a mannequin-like monster. These guys are peak annoyance until you get a gun, and even then, Even then, dude. Exploring further, we find the keys we need, but instead of reaching through the closest gap, James does this weird thing. Like, why not just grab them from another building entirely? Okay. Anyway, it doesn't matter because the keys get knocked, well, kicked away by a little girl who laughs at us and runs off. Honestly, same. What the hell was that, James? Nearby, we also find a handgun and we meet our second interesting character, Eddie, who insists he didn't kill that poor guy by the fridge. When Eddie suggests they continue together since the two have a better chance of survival, James refuses, saying he can't leave yet because he's still looking for Mary. Knowing the plot now, yeah, I wouldn't party up with Eddie either, but still, declining an armed companion in Silent Hill is kind of a bold choice. Once we collect all 3 coins, we return to the puzzle. After solving the 3 riddles, each with its own poem, we're given a choice of whom to blame in the tragedy: the man, the woman, or the beast, a metaphor, I guess, for the illness. If I understood correctly, this choice and many others will affect the ending, so choose carefully here. Solving it also gives us the key to the room 201, where we meet the absolute legend himself, Pyramid Head. Quick side note, this was my first Silent Hill game ever that I've actually finished. I played a little bit of the first part on my Anbernic, but it kind of stopped working, so I've never finished it, never even gotten through the first location really. But I've known and heard of Pyramid Head since childhood, from the movies and just generally from gaming culture, I don't know. He's quite a well-known villain, you know, at least it was in my circles when I was growing up. So seeing him in an actual game, knowing I'd eventually have to fight him, it was kind of indescribable feeling. On the one hand, I was absolutely terrified. On the other, I'm actually finally seeing how this enemy works in the game, and it's incredible. First I thought he would be like a nemesis or a tyrant type of character where he would pursue us constantly, but there were only 2 or 3 sections where that actually happened. Most of the time he just haunts you by existing somewhere off screen. You know he's out there and there will be a boss fight eventually, but you don't know when and where. After meeting him, the only path forward leads to the other world, where we solve another batch of puzzles. The other world mirrors the real one, but with more monsters, stronger enemies, and the signature rusty, broken, decaying aesthetic. To escape, we need to solve the clock puzzle, which requires opening several doors, finding the clock hands, and placing them as instructed in a note. The worst part of this area was probably the vent room. That's also where I got my first death. While solving the puzzles, we run into Angela again, lying in a mirrored room with a knife. She seems a little disoriented. James tries to calm her down, but Angela says maybe they all deserve this fate, which surprises James because he doesn't yet understand how any of them are connected. Angela gives him the knife, which we carry with us until the end of the game. Here we also pick up a key that opens another wing of the apartments. We finally solve the clock puzzle and head back down to the first floor, and then Pyramid Head appears. I'd heard before that you don't actually have to beat him here, you just need to wait for the siren and then he leaves. I still somehow managed to get bonked multiple times while trying to dodge. While waiting for the siren, I started doubting myself. Was this really the game where you don't have to fight him? Do I mix it up with the original? Does the remake work differently? I don't know. I was just constantly thinking that I'm doing something wrong. No, eventually the long-awaited siren sounded and our buddy walked off. The siren also signals the shift back from the other world toward the reality, so we're now back to Silent Hill in a normal way. Outside we meet the little girl again, the one who kicked our keys. Her name is Laura and she knew Mary. Interesting. Then we finally reach Rosewood Park. I actually spent quite a bit of time there studying the location. Some of the statues and notes turned out to contain a bit of the town's lore, which was quite interesting. Going a bit further to the pier, we meet...
Mary? No. You're... not.
The girl introduces herself as Maria, but her appearance and voice are uncannily similar to James's deceased wife. During the conversation, Maria convinces James that they should stick together. She hasn't seen Mary herself, but she might be able to help find her. After another half an hour of wandering around town and poking into open buildings just for the vibes and in search of notes, we stumble upon a motel. Here as players, we save again, and Maria actually comments on it, saying James looked weird, like he zoned out for a second or so. We don't spend too much time in the motel, we mostly search for the code that will open the safe, which contains the key that we need to unlock the next area. I know, it's a lot, okay? There's another neat reference. In one of the rooms hangs Maria's outfit from the original Silent Hill 2. There's even a dialogue where Maria asks if James thinks the outfit would suit her. What can I say? That's really cool. I honestly love details like that and like different homages for the originals in modern remakes. Once we find the gate key, Maria and I head off to the club. Funny thing, on the map I saw the Baldwin Mansion marked and I kind of was convinced that that's where I needed to go. So I kept trying to find a way and I never did. Near the house, Maria says that she remembers absolutely nothing, but something about it feels wrong. So I don't know if it's something from the original that I've missed, or maybe there will be like a DLC for that. I honestly don't know and I don't want to spoil myself, but that's it. There's another enemy rush afterward, which I just sprinted through because my aim with the controller is tragic and I didn't want to spend my healing items, so there's that. In the club, James and Maria have another conversation, after which Maria offers him a drink and James declines. This is already the second dialogue where both characters manipulate each other in one way or another. This is a first and mostly blind playthrough, so I don't know all the metaphors and symbolism. I just take everything at face value and that's how it comes off, to be honest. In this scene, you really feel James's detachment from alcohol and his hidden interest in this specific location. You can interpret this literally like I did, or dig deeper into context I'm probably not aware of, I don't know. I find the way the game frames their conversation super engaging. I constantly wanted the characters to reveal more, but the game kind of encourages you to explore things yourself by the setting and just in general, and I think that's really cool. I'm not sure I explained what I wanted in a way that people would understand, but I hope you understood some of it. After a small detour through the club, we arrive in the garden near the cinema where Maria tells the Silent Hill legend about a woman who was sentenced to solitary confinement on a small island of Toluca Lake. The woman had a lover who swam across the lake every evening, guided by the candle she lit for him. One night while he was crossing, a storm began and the waters took his life, but the woman never stopped waiting and continued to stand by the shore every evening with a candle lit. You can actually read the same story later in the Historical Society building, which we'll get to much further in the game. I have a theory that James once read it there when he visited with Mary, but maybe his mind brought the story back as a reflection of that eternal theme of waiting for a loved one. Passing through a garden, we hear sounds coming from the cinema and manage to sneak inside. Here we meet familiar faces. First Eddie, who grumbles that James refused to team up with him earlier in the apartments, and then Laura, who hides and runs off to the hospital. The hospital is the next big location, filled with puzzles and story beats. After immediately grabbing the map, we start checking every open door and reading every poster and note we can find. Y'all, this place is so atmospheric, especially during those first 20 minutes while you're trying to make sense of it all. We go unlock the cabinet and grab the basement keys, of course we do. We head down to the basement, find a generator room, use it to power the elevator, and make our way to the third floor. After fighting a couple monsters and grabbing everything we need, voila, the elevator works. By the time we reach the second floor again, it's already completely dark outside, and Maria starts feeling unwell and stays in one of the beds in the patient room. Now alone, we continue searching for Laura. Somewhere in the dark corridors, we encounter a new type of enemy, the nurses. They are one of the most iconic horror figures, and I was really scared to meet them, and rightfully so. They are much tankier than anything we've seen before and hit extremely hard if they get close, so I tried to keep them at shotgun's distance at all times. We find the director's office and see the main puzzle of this area. On the dresser lie 3 documents belonging to 3 different patients. We pick them up and look at the hand in the center of the room. We need to find 3 bracelets belonging to these patients. After finding all the bracelets and different parts of the hospital, we return to the director's office. We put all the bracelets on the hand and start matching the numbers and rearranging them until a click happens. Honestly, I have no idea if the solution was mentioned somewhere in the documents or another note, but I kind of brute forced it because I'm silly like that. It worked, so it's fine. On the roof, we find a note from one of the patients and head back. So we land inside the 3rd floor elevator, ending up in the same wing as Laura, just where we needed to be. We meet Laura and learn that she and Mary met in the hospital last year and became good friends. James is absolutely terrible at talking to children, or to people in general, honestly, and he gets what he deserves. I don't know what kind of boss this is supposed to be or what it represents, but we dealt with it quickly. It was pretty easy, I would say, and the steel pipe helped quite a lot. Right after this boss fight, a similar enemy pulls us into the hospital Otherworld, and this is probably the moment to say the Otherworld sections were probably my least favorite. I'm sorry. I like the idea, and I like that they are scarier and more intense than the usual ones, but they did kind of feel a little bit dragged out to me. Maybe it's because your brain expects a huge contrast between the reality and the other world, and the contrast is there, but the real Silent Hill is already very tense enough for me personally. I don't really know how to describe it, but just in both apartments and the hospital, I was trying to solve the puzzles as fast as I can and just get out back to the reality. I really didn't enjoy my stay in the other world, but maybe that was the point, I don't know, to make you feel exactly like that. The hospital puzzle here was a bit more interesting than the one from the apartments. We have a chest wrapped in 3 chains. For each chain, we have to run to different parts of the hospital and solve the puzzle. When we open the chest, it's actually empty, and it's interesting. It was rather disappointing, to be honest. Then a door with a relief opens behind it. We grab the lift button, but to open the door itself, we need 2 rings. We go to the elevator, insert the button, and descend into the basement. Suddenly, something like a radio show starts with James as a guest. It's called Treat or Treat, and the host asks 3 Silent Hill trivia questions, things we learn from various notes and areas around the town. After reaching the basement, we go into the generator room and find the first ring, and then immediately run into Maria again. She's recovered and ready to continue. James mistakes her for Mary, which upsets Maria. They agree to continue looking for Laura since Maria cares about the girl too, which kind of surprised James, like, hello, it's a small child running alone around the cursed ghost town? Okay. We go to the first floor and find the second ring inside a locked bridge. On the way back, we stumble upon a special chest. This is where the elevator quiz comes in handy. We enter the right answers and get a nice stash of health items and ammo. I might be wrong here, so don't quote me on that, but I think I saw somewhere that if you enter the wrong code, the chest will lock forever and James takes damage. Love that for him. We return to the door, place the 2 rings on the statue, and the door opens. We want to go down the stairs, and Maria says she feels uneasy, and she's right. We all should feel uneasy because, of course, we're not alone here. A chase scene begins, one of the few in the games, and to be honest, it was genuinely scary because Pyramid had cheats, and he keeps cutting through broken walls, which is really annoying. We reach the elevator, but Maria doesn't make it in time, and unfortunately, she... Saying I was shocked here would be quite an understatement. I was sure Maria was a permanent character who would stay with us until the end of the game, but more on that later, I guess. The shock was real, and the music in this scene is incredibly sad. Like, I was so surprised. I kind of questioned everything I knew about the game. Back in the first floor, we find the hospital entrance key, which finally lets us leave this place. As we exit, we see Laura running somewhere outside. We chase after her, still apparently in the other world. We reach a gate, but it's locked. Turns out I missed a key item somewhere in the town, so we go back and find a phone booth. We pick up the receiver, listen to a very short dialogue. And receive a note and a wrench. We return to the gate and continue. Running through the garden again, we encounter Angela, who says she probably won't be able to find her mother here. When James suggests they should go together, she refuses and hints that none of us are getting out of here anyway. Under the statue where Angela was standing, we find the key to the Historical Society Museum, or building, and another note. To this Historical Society building, examine various paintings and artifacts, and once again read the story about the woman who lost her beloved in the storm. In the back area of the building, we find a path downward and descend for what feels like forever. After jumping down several more times, straight into hell apparently, we end up in Toluca prison. Inside some kind of a cafeteria, we meet Eddie again, who confuses us by saying he killed a guy, and then he contradicts himself, so he kind of goes back and forth, and moments later he claims that it was all a joke, making it very clear that he won't be working with us. I'll keep the prison and the labyrinth sections quite short, hopefully, because honestly they weren't my favorite. The main puzzle in the prison revolves around a set of scales and the gallows behind them. Our job is to find all the weights, and as we collect them, they unlock different doors so we can keep progressing to the story. This is also where we find the final weapon of the playthrough, the rifle. There were a lot of enemies here, and I kinda tried to sprint past most of them to save ammo and, more importantly, healing items. I felt like if I stopped to smack one of them, two others would immediately jump me from behind, so it was kind of safer to just run, dodge if needed, and dive into the safe zones where enemies weirdly never followed, or maybe this particular one was just very polite, I don't know. After grabbing all the weights, we place them in the red order to get the lever for the next puzzle. Here the task is to match each poem fragment with its logical continuation, and then pick the gallows of the wrongly convicted person. There were two possible candidates, and I wasn't fully sure which one to go for, so I picked the sixth one. It was someone who, as I understood, attacked someone in self-defense, which honestly might be a metaphor for Angela's story. Sorry for a mini spoiler. If you get it wrong, James falls into a monster pit and you have to climb your way back to retry the puzzle, if I understand it correctly. In the labyrinth, we go through the only open door and end up in a morgue, where we find an elevator and descend further. Slowly but surely, we approach Angela's storyline. The location is super creepy, constant whispering everywhere, and from the first minute you can tell something is horribly wrong. A bit further in, we find a newspaper clipping describing the murder of a man named Thomas, aged 39, killed with a sharp-edged weapon. We keep going and hear Angela's voice, and things start clicking into place. We finally find her, and right after that we get attacked by the area's monster. This section is basically a mix of running through rooms and the monster occasionally dropping in and remind you how fragile your nerves are. I wasn't even sure what the game wanted me to do here. It didn't feel like a proper boss fight, so I just started beating the thing with a pipe so it would back off. We push into a newly opened door and chase after Angela, trying to protect her because the monster probably would go after her first. We find her safe place. At first we hear muffled voices and then nothing. It feels like this must have been the only space where Angela ever felt even remotely safe. We follow more distant voices and find the TV playing fragmented dialogue. It's clear the man in the recording is blaming Angela for the things he did himself. We smash the TV, the monster comes back, and we run again. The further we run, the more broken the environment becomes, and the background noise gets seriously disturbing. After a couple of loops of breaking TVs and sprinting through rooms, we finally reach the boss fight area. I didn't really want to waste any ammo on him, so I just kept smacking him with the pipe. Honestly, that felt like exactly what this deserved. It ended up being one of the easiest boss fights in the game. Then comes a cutscene where Angela finishes off her tormentor and drops a TV on him. She opens up a bit more about her past, confirming everything we suspected. She doesn't trust James, which is totally understandable. And then she says James didn't really love Mary anymore and didn't want to stay with her. That's our first real hint that James's story might not be as straightforward as it seems. Angela's arc pauses here. We'll only see her again at the very end of the game, but I'm not in the position to say if it was portrayed well enough, but it was portrayed in a way that made me feel very, very sad and disturbed, and I've never seen anything like that in any other games. We move on into the labyrinth and find a cage holding Maria. She has no idea what James is talking about when he says that she was dead before. She also brings up a videotape James left at the hotel, mental note for later. Then comes more labyrinth, though I somehow have even less to say about it than the prison. The concept is cool, but it just didn't grip me. The only fun part was another pyramid head chase. But in short, there are 3 doors, and depending on the labyrinth layout, they unlock in a certain order. Mine started with the green door. I don't know if it's different in any other playthroughs. We flee, reach Maria's cage, and she is already dead again, unfortunately. Leaving the cage, we find Pyramid's Head's sword, I think, which we'll need moving forward. Silent Hill really impressed me with how much symbolism and detail is baked into absolutely everything. In the final chamber, we find 3 graves, one for Eddie, one for Angela, and one for James. We jump into James's grave. We meet Eddie again. This time he admits he killed someone, apparently someone who bullied him at that. The dialogue clearly hints once more that James is hiding things from us. Then the boss fight starts, and this one is the first truly difficult fight for me, I think. Eddie uses a revolver, and if you're careless enough, you can burn through all of your healing items here. I played super cautious for the first 2 phases, I think, and got my ass kicked anyway, until in phase 3 I got fed up and started chasing this suit. Kinda worked. I did beat him first try, but I left the fight with basically all of my shotgun ammo gone. After the boss fight with Eddie, we get into the boat and head toward my absolute favorite location in the entire game, the hotel. I genuinely can't put into words how much I loved it. I knew we were probably approaching the finale, but I didn't want to leave the hotel at all, so I ended up stretching this part on purpose as much as I could. Taking the long routes, running back to save constantly, clearing every enemy instead of sprinting past, zooming through every single room. I honestly did all of it. I was fully obsessed. If the entire game took place in the hotel, I would have immediately replayed it over and over again. On top of that, I got major vibes of the Painscree Killings, which is my favorite whodunit game ever. Massive respect. Recommend to anyone who haven't played it. We find the key to the music box in the nearby safe area, along with a note for James actually, saying that the videotape that we're looking for is locked in the safe in the staff area. Naturally, the figurines are scattered across different parts of the hotel. In the restaurant area, we meet Laura again. She shows us a letter Mary left for her. But there is another letter addressed to James, except the envelope is empty, so Laura runs off to find the real one and we chase after her. In one of the rooms, we find a ripe apple. Earlier in the garden, we found a rotten one, another detail to keep for later. This is also where I noticed for the first time that the mannequins make a female voice sound when they die, which is very disturbing, to be honest. I didn't notice this before. We enter room 202 after grabbing the key, of course, and solve the mirror puzzle and use one of the apples here, which apparently also affects the ending. For my playthrough, I chose the ripe apple here. We head up to the 3rd floor and enter the conference hall. Near the fireplace, we find a note with the key to room 107 with a quite passive-aggressive note to the staff. We grab it and continue exploring the 3rd floor. In the utility room, we find bolt cutters and, of course, another mannequin-like monster like everywhere in this goddamn hotel that I really enjoyed. From here, we go to the garden and pick up the fireplace key in the gazebo. Gazebo is kind of an interesting word. Before going back upstairs, we head into and finish the garden area and use the bolt cutters to get inside. There we pick up a light bulb. Then back to the fireplace, unlock it, grab one of the figurines, and immediately get jumped by a monster. I didn't record with camera or microphone, unfortunately, but the footage speaks for itself.
God damn it.
Honestly, the conversation between us was kinda short. The creature opened a path to a breakable wall, so we take the opportunity and keep going. In the next room, we pick up the paint that we needed for one of the puzzles. I love the hotel so much I started slipping into spoilery detail mode again. I'll try to chill, honestly. We solve the suitcase puzzle and get the employee elevator key. We run to it and surprise, the elevator has a weight limit. To descend, we can't take any weapons and items with us. This section turns into a real stealth mode and I loved it. When the player feels confident, has tons of supplies, suddenly the game takes everything away. It's just, I don't know how to put it into words. It was amazing. I loved that they just brought this feeling of terror and horror back just so easily. Plus, this section didn't actually overstay its welcome, so I think it was a very, very good touch on an already a very, very nicely planned area. After finding the safe and its code, we retrieved the basement key and the videotape. We find the basement door and go down. There are a few more puzzles here and there, and we get the last figurine. We return to the lobby and complete the music box puzzle. The solution gives us the 3rd floor key. Now we have everything we need to reach room 312. On the way, we see the hotel falling into even deeper decay, and walking toward the finale under this sad music is just... I can't think of anything else but just pure atmosphere. It's so good. I also almost forgot to grab my stuff from the locker, so we do that first. We watched the tape. James killed Mary. James killed Mary. Maybe this was obvious to some people. I wasn't really surprised either. I think this plot twist from Silent Hill 2 is very well known among gaming community, but the way they shot it in the remake, wow. Watching the tape feels like something you were absolutely not supposed to see. Laura arrives, James confesses to her that he killed Mary, and she says that she hates him and runs off. Well, fair enough. After the cutscene, we enter the hotel's otherworld, and oh my god. Earlier I said I don't usually love otherworld areas, but this one is stunning. Maybe it's because there are no enemies, maybe because it's surprisingly bright. But even destroyed, the hotel is mesmerizing. I took my damn time here for sure. We find Angela one last time. She asks for her knife back, but James refuses. After a short conversation, she basically gives up and accepts her fate, saying the burning fire is how she always sees the world around her. Everyone who ends up in Silent Hill has their own personal hell, and I think at this point we're definitely saying goodbye to each other. We reach the boss fight with the two Permit Hats who kill Maria right in front of James once again. We fight them, defeat them, and get access to two doors with two eggs, the scarlet one and the rust-colored egg. We place them in their slots in the doors and just choose one on the other direction. I chose the scarlet one. We confidently head toward the finale and the fight with Maria. On the way we hear Mary's last words before she died, and now the ending you earned finally reveals itself. In my case, Maria was standing by the window, and after our dialogue the boss fight began. Just like others, I managed to beat her on the first try. I did get a little confused on the second phase, but I think eventually I got through it as well. James and Laura leave Silent Hill through Cemetery together. I think this ending called Leave, and it's one of the most positive ones. I don't know if it's good or bad, but this is the ending that I got. I purposefully chose like every option that I would choose on a normal playthrough, like choosing all the positive, all the good options. I also did look through the letter once or twice that Maria sent us, and yeah, at the end we hear Maria's full letter to James. I guess the one that she left for him before she died, and it's very, very sad because in this letter, basically to summarize it, she apologizes for everything that she's done since she became ill, and she acknowledges that she was kind of harsh on James, and she still says that no matter what and no matter how their relationship will end, she will still love him always, though she kind of felt like James didn't really love her anymore, and even if he loved her, he felt some sort of resentment and hate towards her as well. What can I say? He was so good, honestly. I enjoyed it so much. Another cool detail that I liked that I forgot to kind of talk about, the last save point that you get, James doesn't look you in the eyes, and I think it's because, you know, he kind of feels maybe shame or guilt because we know and he knows what he did, and it's quite an interesting detail as well. Another thing that I really enjoyed is different endings. I didn't play through them myself, but my husband played the game as well as me, like approximately at the same time, and he went to get a platinum in it, and he got through all the endings. He showed it to me after I finished the game, obviously, and I think the ending that they changed as opposed to the original quite a lot is the UFO ending. In the original, I believe it was Harry and James talking to each other. Here it's the original James and the remake James talking to each other, and I think it's a really cool detail. I really enjoyed the game. I will definitely replay it, I feel like, but maybe not right away. I still feel like I'm more of a Resident Evil person because I like more of a, you know, silly zombie apocalypse thing. Silent Hill is definitely a little heavier on the topics, and, well, not a little, it's much heavier on the topics, and it's way more psychologically draining, I feel.
The truth is, I hated you. I wanted you out of the way. I wanted my life back.
If that's true, then why do you look so sad?
I think going in blind is the best decision probably that you can make for Silent Hill. But I mean, obviously, if you're watching this, it's not going to be a blind playthrough, but I still kind of recommend it because the puzzles are very interesting. And the fact that different modes, like normal mode, difficult mode, they have different solutions, that's also really cool. That adds a lot of replayability to the game. And also talking about the modes, I went both for the gameplay and puzzles on normal mode, and I feel like that was very, very comfortable. It was the most comfortable, I think, out of all of them. It still had the challenge, but I was constantly having a lot of ammo, a lot of healing items. I think at the end of the game I still had a bunch of healing items left, and I think it's very comfortable. I was worried because I'm not a very good controller player. It's very hard for me to aim with the controller, so I was kind of worried about that, but I think normal is a very, very well balanced mode to play if you're playing for the first time as well. So yeah, that's that. I think I wrapped up all my thoughts. I really enjoyed it. Hope that there will be a remake of the first one, because like I said, I started playing it on Anbernic, but it broke, so I couldn't really finish it. Thank you to everybody who voted, who supported, who waited. I see you all, and I am so happy that you guys are so supportive. I really, really appreciate it. So yeah, that'll be it. Hopefully you guys are all doing well. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you played Silent Hill, or if you're a fan and you know some details that I haven't mentioned from the game, feel free to add them in the comments. I would love to learn a bit more about this universe, and also if I said anything wrong, because there's a bunch of, I think there's like 16 hours of footage, so I might confuse something, because it's been some time since I played and since I wrote the script. I could have confused something, so if I said something wrong, feel free to correct me in the comments as well. Thank you so much for watching.